And glad that you're with us here on the Mark Cox Show today. Be sure and stick around because coming up, we're going to talk to Claudia Rosette from the Independent Women's Forum. We're going to give away a couple of Guns N' Roses tickets a little later this hour. And, of course, we've got our Twitter poll, which is dealing with the race for Secretary of State. Not really a race. It'll be a choice. But there's still a number of people's names being thrown about. So we will get to that coming up. Right now, excited to welcome former Senator Jim Talent to the program. Jim, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm fine, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Another exciting day in the Trump transition.
Yeah, it is. And you were talking about the Boeing tweet, and I think this is one of these instances where we all need to take the president-elect seriously, but not necessarily literally. I mean, he's flagging a program which, and evidently is troubled, and this is one of the few ongoing programs that I haven't really looked at. And what he's saying is we're going to look at this, and his acquisition team is under Secretary for Acquisition. When he's inaugurated, we'll look at this and try and get these costs under control. So, and that's what I'm taking it as. I don't think he'd make a decision to cancel it in a tweet, but I do think. What he's saying, he's spotlighting it as one of the things. It's something that affects him. So I think he's saying, look, I'm going to look at opportunities to, to save money or spend it more wisely everywhere in the government.
Right. Well, and like I said, it's not out of character for what we've seen him do in the past. That's for sure in terms of handling situations or bringing them to the forefront. He's not shy about that. Let me ask this, Senator, are you playing any role in this transition team?
Well, no, there's nothing formal. I've talked to some people on occasion, and certainly before the election, briefed them on defense issues. I was really pleased with his defense plan. Wrote a column about it, and I intend to be very supportive of that plan. But no, I'm not. Don't have any formal role in the transition.
And I think I heard you on Dave Glover's show last week. Somebody threw your name around for Secretary of Defense. Do you know if you're in contention for that?
Well, no, he's picked Jim Mattis, General Mattis, and it's a really good choice. Jim Mattis is very highly respected, and he brings a lot of advantages to the job. I mean, I won't go through them all now, but as a former CENTCOM commander, for example, I think he has some really good knowledge and advice he can give the president on ongoing operations. And the president-elect meshed with him when he spoke with him, but it was flattering to be mentioned. I was
Sure.
I was very pleased and have friends suggesting me to them, and as I said, I'm gonna support that defense plan. Inside, outside government doesn't matter.
Sure. And I was aware of the Mattis pick. I guess the way I should have termed that is there still a chance you could play a role in this administration?
Well, I'm interested in helping any way I can, and they've got like 3,500 posts to fill. I'm not particularly looking for one, but if they're interested in me, I'll sure talk to them about it, and particularly in the defense area, because this is an area where we need all hands on deck, Mark. I mean,
Sure.
The armed forces are smaller and using older equipment than they've been in some cases in 100 years, and we can't protect the nation's security without a strong foundation in the national security architecture, which is the armed forces.
The situation that arose near the end of last week with the call from the Taiwanese president and the uproar over how this upsets the apple cart with China, what's your take on that?
Well, I loved it. And, I think what the president-elect was saying, and it's past overdue, it's overdue that we say it, is that he's not going to walk on eggshells around the Chinese. I mean, they're one nation among many. They have to comply with the rules everybody else has to comply with. And he said in the tweet afterwards, he said, you didn't ask us before you manipulated your currency or built the wall of sand in the South China Sea. And he's not going to ask them before he receives a congratulatory call, for heaven's sakes, from the leader of another government. So, I liked it. I think it was the right message to send. Now, as in all things, we need a strong and consistent and well-planned policy, but he's not in a position to do that yet. I mean, he's not president yet, but I do expect he will. with regard to the Chinese.
Which makes that Secretary of State choice that much more important. Do you have a dog in that race? Is there somebody you would prefer among the others of the names that have been mentioned?
Well, I wouldn't call him a dog, but I'm very.
How about a
close
horse?
to Mitt Romney. I know.
Okay.
I know. I was kidding. I'm very close to Romney. It looks like his chance may be fading. Although, people, these choices and this process, is one where sort of the pieces are changing all the time, and who you pick for one thing can affect who you pick for another. John Bolton is a colleague of mine at AEI, is very good, but he's looking at a number of potential choices, and as long as they're people of sound judgment, they mesh well with the president, and they can be reasonably collegial in the top as part of the top national security team, then I think we have to, let him exercise his discretion and pick who he wants. It's very important that the top 4 or 5 people on the national security team be people who can work together. If they can't, you get factions, and then the president has to spend too much time refereeing.
That's true. As somebody who's watched a number of these transitions take place from a variety of different positions, I've been reading stories about how the Obama administration may be planning, I think, what they called some midnight regulations that they'll try to tack on this last couple of months of his presidency, which will be difficult for a new president to undo immediately in January. Is this just natural politics? I mean, does it happen every time when you get a transition between parties like this?
Yeah, it happens a lot. Now, there's a couple things that people need to keep in mind and that I think are very encouraging because I doubt I would like what they would do at the last minute. If they're just executive orders, he can just repeal them. I mean, that's just a signature. If they're regulations that are issued after a statutory process, there's something called the Congressional Review Act, which allows the Congress on an expedited basis to pass laws overruling regulations if they do it within, I think it's 45 days after they're issued, and those laws can't be filibustered in the Senate. Okay, so that's a tool, and I know they're looking at this in the Republican leadership in the House and the Senate. So this is a tool they have to meet in January after the new president is inaugurated and overrule these regulations if they think they're oppressive or unwise. So, yeah, I think they may try something like that, but there are tools you can use to overrule that or repeal them.
Jim, have you ever considered elected office again?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm still involved in public affairs, as you know, Mark.
Right.
I've gone more into the think tank world. I'm on a number of advisory commissions, and I focused on national security, but I don't believe in planning too far ahead or foreclosing anything. I doubt I'll do it, but things change pretty quickly. I mean, if God forbid something bad were to happen on the national security front, and I felt like I could serve the country better by seeing if the voters would, put me back in office, I would consider it. I don't expect to, though.
Well, I appreciate your time today and your insight on this. Former Senator Jim Talent, you're still primarily with AEI, correct? The American Enterprise Institute?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have, like I said, I serve on a number of other commissions, but that's the central place I work.
AEI.org. Jim Talent, thanks so much for your time.
Okay, Mark. Thank you.
You take care. I appreciate that. Have a Merry Christmas. All right. Thank you. Former Senator Jim Talent wanted to, we're going to have a very interesting race for the Senate here in a couple of years against Claire McCaskill, who's already announced herself an underdog. So I just wondered if Senator Talent might have considered running for his old seat again. That would be an interesting race, I think.